Next up we have Dr. Stephen Cross. So Dr. Stephen Cross writes and lectures on different aspects of Indian and European thought. His major works include a study of Schopenhauer's philosophy in relation to Indian thought. So using his extensive knowledge and research, Dr. Cross is going to outline the historical roots of Dharma and how that evolution shapes our lives in the 21st century. So we'll just connect him up to the speaker.
Okay, well, can everybody hear me there? Yes? Okay, good. Well, I'm very honoured to be able to speak to you tonight, and especially to have the honour of speaking before the three distinguished Swamis that we have with us here. I think that our subject tonight is what drives us to live a fulfilled life. And I think that many, perhaps most of you who are here this evening, will have grown up and been educated in the West, and yet have inherited a family background and cultural traditions which are Indian. So it might be useful for us to explore during the next few minutes the nature of the relationship between European or Western thought and between European and Western thought and civilization and that of India. The question of this relationship also arises when we look at the world as a whole at the present moment and see the great nations of Asia rapidly regaining their proper place and importance in the world around us, and therefore coming into a new relationship with the West. Well, I think that few of us would question the fact that Western civilization, as it has developed in the last 3 or 4 centuries, is essentially secular and very much centred on the empirical sciences and the technological processes that they have made possible. The modern Western mind has become what it is through the adventures of its scientific discoveries. It has developed a sharp and strictly logical intellect as its main tool for dealing with the world. The achievements have certainly been startling, and they're not to be undervalued. But at the same time, the price that people in the West have paid has been a high one. Intellectual planning and technological ingenuity have changed human life and made it easier and more comfortable. But they have not been able to create the conditions for a lasting sense of fulfillment. Many people, especially as they grow older, start to feel an emptiness and lack of fulfillment in their life. Without perhaps being fully conscious of it, they realize that they do not really know who and what they are, and what will happen to them as the body loses its strength and the mind loses its powers and death approaches. The great Irish poet W.B. Yeats gave voice to this underlying anguish when he wrote the lines, "Consume my heart away, sick with desire, and fastened to a dying animal. It knows not what it is." Fastened to a dying animal. The dying animal is, of course, our own body. That is all that we are if we identify only with the mind and the material universe in which it operates. For the mind is a very limited instrument, useful and powerful within its own sphere, but unable to go beyond this. In contrast, Indian thinkers have always taught that there are metaphysical and spiritual realities which lie outside the grasp of the mind, and yet are not outside the grasp of human beings when considered in their true nature and totality. It's a severe reduction of human nature for the modern, scientifically trained mind to ignore this dimension. Here the Indian tradition points in a direction in which to search. We should remember that science is originally a Latin word meaning knowledge. it is significant that the Sanskrit word for this same concept, knowledge, is Veda, and that this is the name given to the bulk of the literature which records the Indian religious and spiritual experience. Just as science is the careful investigation of those aspects of reality accessible to its methods of research, so is the Vedic knowledge a record of those other areas of experience and reality which lie outside the realm of sensory experience and thus of Western science. In the end, a sense of fulfillment in life can come only from the cultivation of our higher aspirations and a knowledge of the real nature of our being, of who and what we really are. This side of our existence often seems to have been deadened or put to sleep by the materialistic philosophy which has been the byproduct of the scientific age. Attitudes to life and its problems that are shaped by intellectually orientated and science-based education have become deeply ingrained in the character of Westerners from all walks of life. The effort to grasp the world by means of the mind and to manipulate it in this way so as to get as much out of it as we can has become an essential feature of Western civilization. People think, unconsciously for the most part, that they are the mind, just as animals assume that they are nothing but the body. To the thinkers of India, and indeed to those of Europe for many centuries before the rise of modern science, this emphasis upon the mind would have appeared to be strange and disturbing. To Asian thinkers, it became clear long ago that the mind is a kind of chattering monkey. It is what stands between us and the realization of our true nature, that calm, unchanging consciousness which is the real bedrock of our being, and which is hidden from us by the continual noise and activity generated by the mind. Perhaps the most popular stories known to the peoples of China are the tales of Monkey and his continual attempts at cleverness and at puffing himself up into something much greater than he really is. Monkey is the mind. In India, we find a different picture of the monkey mind. In the Ramayana, the mind is presented not as it usually is, but as it can and ought to be. This, of course, is Hanuman. Instead of trying to puff himself up, and often causing more trouble than there was in the first place, like Monkey in the Chinese stories, Hanuman is totally and completely devoted to serving Rama, whom he has recognized as representing something much greater than himself. And Sri Hanuman is, of course, of the greatest use and value to Rama. Here then, in this story, which so many generations of Indians have listened to and loved, we have a true picture of the mind, as it can be, when we keep it in perspective and in its proper place. And this is where Dharma comes into the picture. For Dharma is much more than observing religious rules and prescribed rituals, though these may have their place within it. Long, long ago in the Rig Veda, we find the concept of Rita, the divine law, which was held to be more fundamental and more real even than the gods. In later Hinduism, this becomes Dharma, the order that is inherent in all that is, the harmony integrating the cosmos, the law of the universe. Dharma, then, is the inborn nature of things, the law of one's own being. Even in the West, this underlying reality has not really been entirely forgotten. We see this in the ecological movement and the widespread unease that people feel with regard to the way we treat the environment at present. It is the monkey mind, in the form of endless technological change and selfish exploitation of the world, which has brought this about. The concept of Dharma is one which is greatly needed in the West today, for without it, we cannot live a truly fulfilled and balanced life. A truly great religion, while never losing sight of what lies beyond this world and forms our ultimate salvation, is concerned with more than this. It seeks to speak to and guide the whole of humanity, and not only the small number of persons who are focused entirely upon release, moksha or nirvana, and are willing to pay the price for this. The Hindu religion, or Sanatana Dharma, the everlasting Dharma, as it is more properly called, has never failed in this respect. It has always recognized that there exists an outward-going path, a pravriti marga, as well as an inwardly directed path, or nirvriti marga, by which we may withdraw from the world. It recognizes that both of these are necessary and legitimate, and that they complement each other. For we come into the world because we have a residue of unresolved karmic issues which have to be worked out in our lives. It is the two paths together which make up human life. And it is for this reason that we find in India the doctrine of the 4 ashramas, or different stages of life, which I'm sure will be familiar to most of you. Student or brahmachari, householder, forest dweller, or as we would say now, retired person. When the householder sees wrinkles in his skin and whiteness in his hair, and the son of his son, then let him retire to the forest, we read in the sacred text. And finally, sannyasi, he who is firmly and finally focused on the nirvriti marga and final withdrawal from this life. Thus, life in the world, a stage which all of us need to pass through, or we would not have been born into it, is fully recognized and validated. And the traditions of India recognize that there are rules and regulations for leading the right life in such a way that things are always kept in proportion. There is a time for activity in the world, a time for raising in the best way that we can a family, and a time also for withdrawal and seeking identity with our inmost reality. If we plunge into the outward pravriti path without relating it to the larger picture, as so many in the West tend to do, our life becomes distorted and one-sided, and, far from achieving fulfillment, is in danger of ending in emptiness and sometimes even in breakdown. It is perhaps because the West has put so much faith in the mind and relegated Dharma to, at best, a secondary role, that its achievements, however remarkable and impressive they may seem, have about them an air of brittleness, of something which could crack and collapse if pushed too far. For the rishis of the Upanishads and the many great thinkers and guides who have followed them in India, the mind, far from being our real nature, is that which stands between us and what we really are. Although it can become a Hanuman, worshipping and serving Rama, it is in its unchecked state usually very far from being this. For the mind is a mass of karmic impressions, of vasanas and sanskaras carried over from previous lives, the voice of our desires and fears, driving our lives and determining our actions. Many scientists in the West seem to believe that the human intelligence, even consciousness itself, is a mere byproduct of the evolutionary process, only an episode in the history of a basically mechanical universe. And even the man in the street with only a limited education sees life in an essentially materialistic way. Further scientific discoveries will not provide the answer, for Western science is concerned with the external world experienced by the senses. It does not seek to explore the inner dimensions of human existence. It has always been the Indian view that if our aim is to live a fulfilled life, we can reach this not by trusting everything to the mind and what it can do for us, but by understanding and conforming ourselves to Dharma. To live in accordance with Dharma is to live fruitfully and well. To act against it is in the long run self-destruction. It is Dharma, understanding and carrying out the obligations and duties which spring from our social station, as Krishna taught to Arjuna, and not the mind with its longing for the fruits of action, which in the long run enables us to live a truly fulfilled life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cross. And next up we have Dr. Ramji Vaidya. So Dr. Vaidya has a PhD in Sanskrit and completed his thesis on the Indian Philosophical School of Samkhya. Dr. Vaidya is presently a full-time volunteer for the charity Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh in the UK. His core role is to further the work of the organisation across Europe. He's particularly interested in how to maximise our own potential, keeping in mind our core human nature, and how Hindu traditions and Hindu thought may be best suited for such a task. Dr. Vaidya will today explore how he's internalised the idea of fulfillment in his life using Hindu principles. Dr. Vaidya.
Pranam to Swamiji's eminent speaker and all my eminent friends. I remember I was 10 years old, brought up in Nagpur, in India. We were sitting for the dining, around dining table for the dinner. Nice curry, I liked that one, that time. I picked up one spoon and tried to serve in my plate. My father stopped me. Said, Ram, serve others first. Then you take. Since then, even today, 35 years after, now you know my age as well. Whenever I serve, I remember that incident. We're a big family, and that's why we used to buy some Cadbury's, chocolate, different things. And I was the youngest in the family, so my job is to serve others. The first thing my father used to say, my mother used to say, serve others. You remain something, then you eat. Now, this is so natural, so normal, I never felt that something is a natural thing I'm doing. Whenever you eat, whenever you do something, serve others. When first time I came to London and used this underground tube, and I was sitting, I was hungry, and one lady was sitting and she opened the packet of crisp. I thought she will offer me. And I was preparing my sentence in English, how should I say no, then okay, then fine. But she didn't. She started eating it by herself. And then I thought, my teachings, something different, but that's a natural. Serving others make us fulfilled. I can be happy individually, but I can never be fulfilled when I find alone. I hardly buy. Sometimes Pranav and Sachin ask me to buy so many things, so then I go to shopping. After shopping, I always feel, I could have bought cheaper than this thing. And I never saw the people who, after the shopping, they're happy. Because they think now, something else I need.
But I always think that a person who gives something is always feel happy, and happiness stays for long. And that's why the giving something to the others makes us fulfilled. But why? Recently Brussels attack, very gruesome. Next day, the entire street of the Brussels were full of the flowers and the messages. Who were they? They, people who came also may have felt the bomb may happen here as well. But they came because they thought that I had some connection with that one. That fulfillment was there. They easily could have stayed at home and watched the TV, but they made an effort to come forward. When you come forward to that effort, that's called as a fulfillment. Therefore, the first proposition of fulfillment is the fulfillment happens only when we give, when we share to the others. The second fulfillment is we are connected. Me and my brother, my family are connected. But that connectedness is always big and big and big. In Aztec tradition, one of the major proverbs is Mitakoye Oyasi, means we all are related. 2 years before I went to this ceremony organized by the witch community. We always know the witch by witchcraft and all the magics. They have a broom. They had a broom, but not to fly on or just to clean the place. And one of the ceremony that one was, each one will hug each other and say, "Oh brother, I love you. Oh sister, I love you." Who were they? So these were the people and we are connected to each other. And therefore the relation is also part of that fulfillment. That's why whenever I say that I am fulfilled, means that I connect with others. And therefore for Hindus, the Ganga doesn't remain as H2O or the water or the river, it becomes the Ganga Mata. Not even that one, the moon, completely non-living atom, entity, we do not say the moon, we say Chanda Mama, is the uncle. That natural connectedness is so much practiced in our tradition. And one of the concept of that one's relation is the dharma. Dharma has so many meanings. A very simple word. For me, dharma is anything, any principle, any notion by which the entire universe, all multiverse will sustain, enhance. I will leave this world the better than I experienced. That notion is dharma. Ram, not me, Ayodhya Ram. He was asked to go to the forest. Day before, he was going to be a king. He was in the somewhere heaven, enjoying the life, not in the club, not in the bar, but maybe in the mandir. Next day, he was asked to go to the forest. Entire Ayodhya was with him. He easily could have dumped his father and Kaikeyi in the jail and could have become the king. Possible. But that would have the action of the Ram, my name never would have been the Ram. But Ravan had an amazing, beautiful queen, a wife, but he wanted others' wife. Therefore, the act of Rama is a dharma because he thought of the entire entity, the society, and the act of Ravan is adharma. If I feel I do something which will save my family, which will protect the nature, is dharma. My any action will destroy the family, destroy the society, destroy the country, destroy the humanity, destroy the nature, is adharma. It's a very simple concept. It happens because I'm connected with that one. What's the connection? Connection, we always say, Isha Vasamidam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat. Whatever is in the world is connected with that God. Whatever is there is the God's. One of the scholar in Islam, was traveling to Kaaba. And he was doing all the way the namaz, plenty of times. Many days it took to reach him. Saint Rabia was there. She reached quite early. When both shared their conversation, why delay? The scholar said, I was doing namaz all the time, plenty of time. But you reached quite early. Why? Saint Rabia said, because Allah was carrying me. Because Allah was making me to walk. No need any namaz. Sant Eknath from the Maharashtra, he was carrying the water for the Shankar Bhagwan and he saw some donkey lying. Rather than have abhishek on the Shankar Bhagwan, he offered that entire water to the donkey because he thought, who knows that the God must be here. Each and every action becomes that relation. Each and every spirit becomes something which is a God. That godly spirit in everywhere, that feeling that every entire world, universe, each and every particle is a spirit, that gives that dharma concept, that fulfillment concept. And the third proposition of fulfillment is fulfillment through the completeness. Is my relation is like that. I'm walking on the street, if I trip, immediately my hand will go there to stop the blood. The tears will come out of the eyes. My mouth will say, all the head will start thinking what to do next now. What happened? The entire body, all the body organs also thought the same thing, how to save this person, how to save the leg. That connection is more important. And with connection, everything happens. What is a connection? That connection means we all are a part of the same body. And that's why the spirit is more important. Spirit says that something is common everywhere. Completeness means each atom is complete. Each tissue is complete. Every person is complete. And therefore the interaction between the atomic particles, electron, proton and something more, that gives that atomic reaction that can occur. If my eyes is responding to the break, they can't help to the wound. And therefore the seva or dharma is nothing, something special, but it is a response to the others, response to the world. That positive response to the world is the dharma. One guy was drowning and another guy jumped. He said, why did you come? You don't know swimming. I said, I know. I just came to be with you. I haven't come to save you, basically. Just to respond to that, your action, my reaction should be there. And that's why dharma is nothing but response to the world, that positive response to the world. Fulfillment is a completeness. Completeness means everything in the world is complete. We are just adding something in that one. We believe that any organic thing in the world is complete. Hand is complete, finger is complete, nail is complete, tissue is complete. Together, entire hand, arm is complete. Entire body is complete. My body, your body is also complete. Together our relation is also complete because we possess something completeness in it. Two incomplete things cannot become complete. Two complete things, when they come together, they become complete. 0 plus 0 is a 0. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. It's one of the Shanti mantra of the Upanishad. They mention that everything is complete here. If we take out of the completeness, the complete remains. If you add something in the complete, also complete remains. And that's why we always feel like that. That completeness is a fulfillment. When I see that in connection, I feel like that after doing any action, the entire world will be complete. My society will be complete. My family will be complete. That completeness will feel like that, we feel like that, it is a fulfillment. Like recently on the talk, Mr. Stephen mentioned about these 4 ashramas. The 4 ashramas, we always feel each ashram is a complete. And brahmacharya ashram is a complete itself. When you move towards grihasthashram, then vanaprasthashram, then sannyasashram. In this present British atmosphere, Western atmosphere as well, we can feel like that. Today's problems are fourfold: global terrorism, global warming, global recession, and the fractured family system. The solution of all those problems are in the fulfillment of the life. Dharma of our society. The global terrorism, the answer lies in ekam sat vipraha bahudha vadanti, because my notion is not only correct notion, it's a notion. There are so many notions are there, so many ways to reach the God are there, all are valid. When I say global recession, means that I need to control myself to save the entire earth. My control definitely will create that harmonious life, not the recession. Whenever I have a business and a GDP, profit, everything I think of, if I think of 3 P's, the profit, planet and the people, I will be a rich person, but not at the cost of the planet and the people's life. If these notions come into practice in the Western world, I feel like that this fulfilled atmosphere, the entire planet will feel fulfilled. One nice poem, I remember, I finished that poem of Tagore. If it's a tree, the branches are there. So the branches of the tree are the roots of the tree outside there, in the air. And the roots of the tree are the branches of the tree underneath. So together, roots also complete. The branches is also complete. Our perspective, we need to change that. And our perspective, if it is like that, my complete life will be there for the complete life there. I won't make anybody's life incomplete. If I feel like that I am related with the entire world, that relation, it will definitely enhance that fulfillment. And therefore, response to that relation, dharma can be the part of our life. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya, as well. I'm now going to open the floor up to questions. We're going to split this Q&A session into 4 themes. So if you have a question, raise your hand and speak loudly and clearly so that the video recording can pick up the sound. Keep your questions brief. I will be strict on timings. And try to keep it as broad and relevant to everyone as possible. So try not to keep it to specific circumstances that are just specific to you. So we're going to look at 4 different themes. We'll start off with the philosophical perspective, so how the theme relates to different beliefs held by different religions and the theory behind that. We'll then move on to society and culture, so we'll explore the impact of cultural norms in the society that you grew up in and how that affects your fulfillment. We'll then move on to life experience, so how the role of influence is in your upbringing, how that affects what drives you towards fulfillment. And then we'll look at solutions. So we'll dig deeper into how to find your dharma and how to achieve your dharma. So I'm going to start off with the first question, with the philosophical and looking at the philosophical and the theoretical position. Both of you and Mr. Armstrong as well touched on the Western perspective versus the Hindu cultural perspective. How do I know which one's best? Does it depend on me, or how do I know which one I should follow?
Okay, so thank you. Now I've got the technology right. Okay, so the question is, how does one know what is best, the Hindu?
Yeah, there's all these alternative paths that I could follow. So there's the Western perspective, the Christianity has the 10 commandments, say follow all of this and you'll go to heaven. Islam has its own set of rules that say follow this and you'll be fulfilled. The Hinduism says follow your dharma. How do I know which alternative path I should follow? What does it depend on?
Well, it's a question of what leads to fulfillment, isn't it? I don't quite know how to answer this question, really. I mean, if you're within another religion, it's going to seem the best to you. But I think if we look around the world, we see that there aren't any religions really which are giving very good answers outside the sphere of India. Not only Hinduism, but Buddhism also, I would say, was a life-giving and effective religion. But I think Buddhism is really just a variation of Hinduism myself. I don't know if all Buddhists would agree with that, but that's how it seems to me.
So if I'm not religious, if I'm atheist, is there any guidance towards my fulfillment? If I'm atheist, if I don't follow any religion, is there any guidance in how I should strive towards fulfillment?
Well, I would say you could take some inspiration from what Sri Rama here was saying just now about Dharma. This idea of connectedness is obviously a valuable, something very valuable for anybody. You don't have to be a Hindu to think in those terms. But I think if you do have a Hindu or background, you are able to focus that idea much better than you can if you don't have that. I think for an atheist, he may now and then be able to lock onto that, but I think he won't have the persistence to maintain it over time. So.
Nice question. I feel we should not discriminate or differentiate as a Western, Eastern, something like that. Philosophy is philosophy, all philosophies are good. When it becomes a theology, it's a different thing. One of my scholar group used to mention, if you know English, you are more confused. Because when you start to mingle with this, jumble with these two words, religion, dharma, here and there. In our, if you visit Indian, different places, if you build a house for yourself, it is your home. If you build a house for others, it becomes dharmashala. So dharmashala is not the house of religion. If you look after your child, it is called as a pitru dharma. It is not the religion of the father. And reciprocally, when the son is looking after the father, it becomes a putra dharma, doesn't remain as the religion of a son. That's why Hindu dharma do not recognize anything like atheism. If you believe in yourself, whichever manner you believe something, then you start expanding yourself. Do you believe the person sitting in front of you, something entity, a chair, you believe in that chair, otherwise you will trip there. There's a door there, you need to believe that door is there. And that's why you start believing the things around you. You never remain as an atheist. You only remain as an atheist when you have one form of a God, and that form only is a valid form. That form if you reject, then the concept of atheism comes, which is not at all. Like atheism subject and studying in the dharma is basically the studying the historical facts in the geography and the mathematics. That's why you can be atheist, still you can follow all those dharma, because there's no need to. And the first question was basically that. What was that? How to connect. Different thoughts were there. All thoughts are valid. In different ways they will worship. Different ways they will go. According to me, different levels they will stop. Socrates may stop at certain point. Descartes may stop certain point. You may stop certain point. But all the points are valid, and all where you are right to stop or start from any point.
Any other questions on the philosophical, theoretical.
So I think at all points, as speakers, we've been speaking about timeless beings, us being, the self being a timeless being, something that is infinite. And then the concept of fulfillment seems to be something that is finite, that once you have reached fulfillment, you are done. Are these two concepts really compatible?
Okay, so just to check the question, is the concept of fulfillment and the other one?
And that of
Infinite. We agree with the infinity, but the fulfillment is very finite, isn't it? How it is compared?
Infinity?
Yeah, because we feel that they are infinite. Timeless.
Yes, well, I think a sense of fulfillment which is going to be finally satisfactory must include a sense of our infinity. We can live what we think is a fulfilled life up to a certain point, but when it comes to death, we have to have a concept which goes beyond fulfillment in this life. So I think having a understanding of our true nature, of what we really are, of who we are, as they say in Vedanta, who am I? That is a necessary part of fulfillment. Otherwise we can get temporary fulfillments, but finally one has to have this understanding of one's ultimate nature.
There is nothing finiteness in the world. Finite. If you feel this as fulfillment, for example, fulfillment is the giving. So when you give something, serve something, help someone, you feel fulfilled. That fulfillment is not finite, because you are helping for that, the person, for the infinite happiness for that one. So that concept, that action, it has some efforts, something infinite result for that one. So nothing is finite. For example, if I burn the wood, that wood don't don't destroy it. The wood will become an ashes, different form will be there. But there will be always a wood. If you completely destroy something, you always remain the absence of that wood as well. So absence of the wood is also infinite. And that's why in the world, whatever we do is always infinity. Because we are a part of that infinity. And that's why the fulfillment, any our action, anything in the world is not a finite, it is an infinite.
I'm just wondering if you could explain more about whether an understanding of one's real nature is preliminary to fulfillment or to understanding what dharma really means.
So your question is?
Whether understanding of real nature comes before understanding
What dharma means.
Does it happen?
I would think it's related. Certainly it's related. Because we are actually, if we haven't understood our real nature, we are actually driven by these samskaras and vasanas that have brought us into life. And essentially, we are going to live in a selfish manner in that way. It's only when we begin to understand our broader nature, and as Sri Ram here says, the connectedness that we have with the rest of the world, that we start to overcome those impulses. It's like you know perhaps the story of Sri Krishna subduing the Kaliya Naga in the depths of the Yamuna. Well, if we don't understand our true nature, we are the Kaliya Naga. The Kaliya Naga has has its place in the world. It's not destroyed by Sri Krishna, but when it wants to take control, when it tries to take control of the world, then it has to be controlled and subdued and put in its right place, and that is what Krishna does in the story, of course.
The real nature is always there. One of the word called Aham Brahmasmi, I am a Brahma, is a real nature. Means what? I am a part of the entire universe. The same spirit is in me and in you as well. But different times, different consciousness level we live, and we respond to the world accordingly. Not forgetting the real nature. If I am reading a Vedanta book in the flight, and I realize that when I am a Brahma, and when I land, an immigration officer asks, "Who are you?" I cannot say I am a Brahma. I should say my name because it is given to by my birth. And immediately when I want to, from there, when I wanted to go to the washroom, immediately my consciousness becomes, am I male or female first? In my male toilet I will go. That time also I don't forget my real nature, but now that time my consciousness level says, I am a male now. Similarly, when I come out of that, my son comes and he hugs me, "Daddy, welcome back." That time also I realize that one, okay, I'm a daddy here because I'm a part of that family as well. Not forgetting the real nature. By having a real nature also, we never forget the response to the world, connectedness to the world. And therefore each moment we change our consciousness, apparently not forgetting the real nature.